Loops 19. Bisophrynith. 19:1. Twilight looked up at the refurbished castle with satisfaction. Excellent. Well done, every pony. AJ nodded. Yep. A good day's work, Audi say. The other 4 element bearers lay around in various states of collapse. It had taken a 12-hour-long burst of effort from all 6 of them to get the castle of the Royal Pony Sisters habitable, but it looked pretty good. Right. Okay, everyone, take tomorrow off. Enjoy your new rooms, Twilight continued briskly. AJ, you can commute if you want, or move your family in, I don't mind. But we're going to want to get to work on the monitoring station soon. You know, Dash wheezed, this can't be what Princess Celestia wanted you to do once we cured her sister. Why not? Twilight asked, frowning. It'll let us use the elements on any villain who might threaten Equestria. It means we're already in one place, so there's no need to waste time getting together, and it'll let us detect when villains turn up in the first place. You think there might be any? Rarity asked, pulling herself upright. Probably. Twilight shrugged. Asterisk. Right. Trixie calls this meeting of the League of Minor Antagonists to order. There was a hubbub of confused voices. Trixie said order. There was a loud bang. Thank you. Now, Trixie is sure you are all wondering why you are here. Well, Gilda said scathingly. None of us have ever met one another. Well, except me and Lightning Dust over there. It's lightning, the Pegasus snapped, stamping. Who put Pony York in charge? Fido asked. Trixie did. Trixie's gaze swept the assembled ponies, Griffin, Diamond Dogs, one confused buffalo, a large and irritable dragon, and Philomena the Phoenix, wearing a name tag with the legend Observer. Trixie came up with the idea, recruited you all, and Trixie will be in charge. Really? The dragon said, grumbling. Trixie erupted in blue light. Really? She said casually, as the corona of power revealed her wings. Trixie said she was great. And powerful. You should take her at her word. What the buck? Lightning Dust said, blinking. You're an alicorn. Nope. Trixie was sitting back down, light and wings gone and cloak firmly over her back. Why? Did you see something? Oh, forget it. Trixie already has. Whatever it was. The unicorn waved a hoof. Now, our objective, the elements of harmony. Trixie recommends stage 1 should begin soon. What's stage 1? Gilda asked. Why, that's simple. Trixie grinned, activating a slide projector. We place buckets of water over doors that they tend to walk through. Pony York is clearly insane, Fido muttered. The buffalo nodded, still wondering why he wasn't in a desert anymore. / 19:2. Okay, come on. Spike stood, and gestured to his girlfriend a word that still gave him a little frisson when he thought it. We're going flying. Rarity flinched. Do we have to? She asked, covering for her slip. Well, you don't have to, Spike admitted. But I saw how you were last loop, don't try and deny it, either. You really don't like flying. I don't, no. That was no great secret. Luna hadn't managed to do much more than deeply bury the fear in armor of ice, and while it didn't paralyze her in terror, it was still obvious from the sheen of sweat that Rarity did not like flying. Well, I dunno, Spike shook his head. You earned those wings of yours, Rarity, and I know what it's like to hate your own body. The dragon shook his head again. But hate's too strong a word. More like, dislike? Or just feel like you can't bring yourself to use the full scope of its abilities. No, that's not it either. It's so hard to. Rarity pressed a hoof against his lips. I do know what you're trying to say, Spike. Then she chuckled. even if you're not doing very well at saying it. I'm at a disadvantage. Spike said. There's a hoof in my face. It wasn't when you started talking, dear, Rarity riposted. Got any proof? For a moment, the young dragon grinned wickedly. Then his face fell, as he remembered the topic. After a moment, Rarity nodded. It seemed like she was nodding half to herself. Okay, you have a point. I'm an alicorn now, or I can be, and letting that go to waste would be simply atrocious. Yet. Besides, I'll be there. And I couldn't ask for a better. Rarity then giggled. Oh, but I hope you're going to age to the point you have wings. I'm not learning to fly while carrying you on my back. The dragon frowned. That's a point. Actually, should we ask Dash to help? She's the best flyer we know. She is, yes, Rarity considered. No, I don't think so. Dash finds flying far too easy. It's first nature to her. If anything, my preference would be for Fluttershy. She's by no means a natural flyer, and she's had to work at it. True. Shall I get her? No. Spike blinked at how firmly Rarity had spoken, and she shook her head with a knowing grin. Dear me, Spiky Wikey, you do miss the wood for the trees sometimes. You're a great big strong dragon. I'd lay odds it was just as hard for you to learn as it was for Fluttershy to. Probably harder, you're right. Spike thought back. Yes, it was hard enough for me to force myself into the air. But I still think we should get Fluttershy, because she's the one who had to overcome a fear of flying. Next time, Rarity decided, after a moment. Unless this time goes well. But let's see how we do alone together first. Okay. Spike squared his shoulders. Sounds good. And after this I'm going to get your adult form properly measured. Rarity's eyes took on what might be considered a slightly dangerous glint. I won't have you without a decent wardrobe, whatever your size. We're not going to be declaring war for the materials, are we? Spike asked, with a crooked smile. I swear. Rarity quite deliberately flounced. You invade another sovereign nation in the search for swatches one time, and you're hearing about it forever. That was good for a shared laugh. Thanks, love, Rarity said, quietly, after a minute or so of silence. You're right, I do need a kick up the backside about it. Sooner or later, there'll be a loop where I need to fly. Spike shrugged awkwardly. I kind of wanted to show you a few good romantic spots, too. Just the odd little place I like to go and meditate, but if we could both get there then they'd be perfect for a picnic. Ah, motivation, Rarity looked off into the middle distance. I look forward to it. Well, let's go. Where do you suggest we start? Ponyville Dam, Spike replied promptly. The lake's a good safe splashdown spot, and hard flapping is at least a simple way to fly. You feel you're in full control, and it lets you get that part of it down. Besides, your actual skill is good, it's a psychological thing. Very well, then. The unicorn summoned a swimsuit. Nice day for a swim. Spike blinked. Are you trying to distract me? Because, it's kind of working, actually. / 19:3. I actually kinda wish I had a grandmother half as neat as yours, Diamond Tiara said absently. I mean, she got a land patent from Celestia herself. Always with hobnobbing for you, ain't it? Apple Bloom shook her head. And here I thought you were getting to appreciate commoners. Well, I do. Diamond pointed over at Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle. See? I appreciate them. Y'all bribe them. We are totally happy with that. Scootaloo said, balancing an ice cream about the size of her leg. Bribery is good. But as I was saying, Diamond pressed, I do appreciate commoners. But you, oh farmer's daughter, are yeomanry. What? Apple Bloom blinked, trying to remember the meaning of the word. Ain't that the same thing? Not quite. Diamond bestowed a disapproving look on her, with only a slight smirk to reveal she didn't mean it. Silver. It's simple. Silver Spoon pointed over at the distant orchard. Basically, you own your own land or, rather, your family does. Wait, that's it. Apple Bloom felt vaguely disappointed. Well, yeomanry have other characteristics. Diamond smiled beatifically. Chief amongst them a stubbornness of truly gargantuan, nay, epic proportions. One that puts such little things as 1,000 years on the moon into the shade. Apple Bloom giggled. Okay, you got me. But why does that make us yeomanry, instead of commoners? Basically, Diamond looked a little embarrassed. Actually, it's because there used to be 3 kinds of ponies. Ones who had others work for them, ones who worked for themselves, and ones who worked for others. And most of the top lot didn't care about the difference between the other 2. Then she made a throwing away gesture. But who gives an apple? They'd consider Silver and I nouveau riche, you an uppity yeoman's daughter and Scootaloo and Sweetie to be dreadfully common. So, what you're saying is, none of it matters anyway, Apple Bloom said slowly. Yes, but don't expect that in writing. Diamond frowned, then raised a hoof. Idea. I give you poor, benighted provincials and Silver, of course a taste of true class. Which is? 4 voices said, not quite in chorus. Hey if I know. As far as I can tell, though, class tastes like expensive chocolate. So that seems like a good start. Diamond counted out bits. Wow, I never realized just how much allowance I had. Which way is Sugar Cube Corner? / 19, 4. Okay, guys, Sora said, summoning Fimbul Winter and Fafnir. The 2 keyblades crackled with frost and fire, and air began to swirl around him. In fast, beat up Axel, then we can finally get our Gumi ship back this loop. Gotcha. Donald quacked, his own legendary weapon snapping with power. He and Goofy fell in behind their anchor, as he broke down the doors of Twilight Town's old mansion. Greetings, a large, blue-black animal shouted. He, reminded Sora of a cross between a unicorn, Hercules' friendly Pegasus, and Sykes, somehow. You would be the destined child whose memories we had to rebuild in thy dreams. Yet. Sora looked around, trying to spot something different. Nope, the mansion was the same as ever, but those winged unicorn statues now looked kinda suspicious. Where are you from? Equestria. Whatever she was said, lowering her voice enough that Sora could at least detect a gender. Now. Where is the nearest pool? We need a holiday. *. Filling in for Auntie Luna Six, Nix grumbled. Moon goes up, moon goes down. It's boring. Wonder if I could make it go sideways. Namine shrugged. I'm just grateful for the rest. / 19, 5, inspired by new recruits, a picture by DM Creweyes. Well, I got to admit, Apple Bloom walked around the first applicant. She ain't got a cutie mark. But she's way too old. Scootaloo carefully scrutinized the nervous applicant, who began to turn rather more annoyed. Like, at least 20. Well, I say we should take her. Sweetie Belle nodded. Bloom? Scoots. Yeah, sure. Apple Bloom nodded as well, and after a moment Scootaloo made it unanimous. Can you, transform smaller? Sweetie asked, rummaging amongst their things. We don't have a large size cape. Fine. Queen Chrysalis flashed with green fire and became much smaller. This will do. Yep, Apple Bloom answered. As for the other one, hey, can you take off your armor? We need to see if you have a cutie mark. Cries Tals. Sombra said, shocked. No, I didn't mean it like that. Sweetie babbled, then blinked. Wait. We don't even have that kind of taboo. Asterisk. You think this stands the best chance of working? Princess Celestia asked, watching as the Crusaders, 3 official, 1 probationary, chased Sombra around the meadow trying to get a look at his flank. Well, it's worth a try. Twilight held up a book. Apparently it's called Reintegration Therapy. 19:6, Feel Rain, continuation of 17:3 Take 2. In Rainbow Dash's opinion, it was a pity they had to halt a great prank. Then again, giving a place of rest for other loopers was something Princess Celestia ordered to all of them, and the Pegasus agreed with the reasons. Explaining all of that to Anana woke Celestia, after they had used their dark alicorn forms? Awkward. Asterisk. Is that it? Celestia was very worried about this development. Was this a trick born for the darkness and corruption to make her let her guard down? She wasn't sure what she would do, alone or with the day guard as backup, against 6 alicorns in direct combat. Were they telling the truth? And what was the role of Discord, who was currently eating popcorn with Starlight Breaker, in all of this? She wasn't sure what option was the more terrifying one. I think we can offer some proof and fix everything at the same time, Twilight Sparkle said before looking back to the other ponies and nodding. Then all 6 of them changed into alicorns, finally seeing how the corruption took their forms. Fearing what she had really unleashed in Equestria, a cold sweat ran through Celestia when Eternal Twilight's horn started to shine, and then she saw appearing, the elements of harmony. How could they answer to any pony's call? After each alicorn wore an element, Celestia saw how a rainbow-colored wave spread from the alicorns, warm to the touch, fixing the castle and clearing the sky. So, how was it? Eternal Twilight said, in a voice not unlike Twilight Sparkle. Celestia decided it was the best moment to faint. Asterisk. But that didn't matter right now. She was back in Ponyville and taking care of the Weaher as usual, and with a new apprentice this loop she could have more time to nap, which was always a good thing. Twilight told me you can control the weather. How does that work? Starlight, no, Nanaha asked. By some reason she didn't like to be called for her pony name. Well, we usually work in teams to move clouds and make different weather patterns. Do you see how I'm standing not flying on a cloud right now? Rainbow Dash asked while stomping the cloud with one hoof for emphasis. Nanaha nodded, while hovering by the rainbow-maned Pegasus side. She seemed extremely at ease in a Pegasus body, Rainbow Dash noted, barely walking if she could fly. I'd normally start with you trying to stand on a cloud, but you seem to have a good knack for flying. I just love flying, and having actual wings here is very interesting. Nanaha's eyes sparkled. I can understand that, just tell me if you are getting too tired to take a rest. Rainbow Dash smiled. Time to practice, try to buck this cloud. Asterisk. Hey, Twilight, can I borrow some parchment? Rainbow Dash asked her friend. Let me see if there's some left around here. Twilight looked at the ruins of the library, the lack of walls giving a great vantage point to see the ruins of Ponyville. Here. What for, anyway? I want to write a letter to Princess Celestia about what I've learned this loop. Never let Nanaha in the weather management team when there's a thunderstorm scheduled. 19:7, Madfish. The villagers of Ponyville were shocked. They'd just seen a tripped, spun, slipped, inverted, flipped, and finally netted Nightmare Moon now hanging from the ceiling. Applejack turned to face the mayor, and coincidentally the crowd she laid out the sequence of events. That's amazing, but if there's no Nightmare Moon, who is that? Asked the mayor, gesturing at the net. Rarity if ya would. With a beam of light from her horn the makeup removal spell washed over Nightmare Moon, revealing Royal Celebration Coordinator Twilight Sparkle. Shouted an even more shocked crowd. The one thing we didn't get was the why, Sugar Cube, Applejack said. Why the whole Nightmare Moon scam? What did you gain by faking that Ponyville would hold the Summer Sun celebration? The 5 of you did pretty well, Twilight answered, sounding rather unworried for a party wrecker in a net being stared at by a growling Pinkie Pie. The part of the plan you failed to understand was that I moved every calendar in Ponyville forward a day and cast a spell to stop any pony noticing. But why? Pressed Big Macintosh Apple from where he'd triggered the net. Simple. I needed to find a group of ponies to stop Nightmare Moon. Twilight nodded to herself absently. But, darling, your Nightmare Moon, Rarity pointed out, gesturing to the costume wings that had fallen off at some point in the process. With a certain smugness Twilight finished filling in the gaps, only for tonight. Tomorrow at the real celebration, which really is here by the way, the real Nightmare Moon will be freed and kidnap Celestia unless I can find a group of 6 ponies like yourselves to stop her. You'll forgive me, darling, if we're skeptical. Rarity frowned uncertainly. It sounded a lot like Twilight was a few stitches short of a dress. No fur off my muzzle, I've done my bit. You've already got the book in the library, so tomorrow the 6 of you can go to the old palace and get them. Twilight kicked back. Well, said the mayor after a moment of silence, her voice firming, take her away. As she was led out the door, Twilight shouted back, and I've gotten away with it because of you meddling mares and your Studley stallion. Then somewhat quieter with distance, seriously. Studley. Call me sometime. / 19, 8, Stainless Steel Fox. Gentlemen, it appears one of the guests of honor is late, probably still caring for an injured animal, knowing her. She is a butter yellow Pegasus with a pink wavy mane and tail. She is also rather timid, so I want you to treat her with the utmost courtesy and gentleness. I'm sure you will do your duty in an exemplary fashion. The 2 guards standing in front of the entrance to Sugar Cube Corner both nodded curtly. Twilight looked around. She was not going to let this instance of the party slip into the sort of disaster that the original was. Rarity, how's the anti-mess spell holding up? It's marvelous, Twilight. The unicorn mare returned, enjoying the feast spread in front of her. I must put it on all of my dresses. Where did you find it? In an old book of household charms. Where she'd written it after creating it from scratch over the last couple of loops. I don't see why you couldn't enchant it into one of the gems using a rune matrix to make it permanent. I'll draw something up for you. Thank you, darling. Salad fork over there, soup before salad, Applejack, she said to the bewildered-looking farm mare alongside her. Thanks kindly, Sugar Cube, it's been a long time since I did this kind of fancy eating. Satisfied that they were both happy, Twilight checked on Pinkie Pie, just in time to divert a 7-layer cake into the pink pony's trajectory and prevent her taking Princess Celestia's cake. Thank you, sirs. Fluttershy's voice came from the door, and Twilight went over to intercept her. I'm so glad you could make it. It wouldn't be the same without you. Sorry I'm late, I had to finish taking care of a patient first. Twilight smiled at her. It's okay, I thought it was something like that. Come on, I know the princess is going to love you, and she's brought her pet phoenix with her. Fluttershy's eyes sparkled at the idea. Ah! They came over just as Celestia finished tea-trolling the cakes. Princess, may I present my friend Fluttershy? The princess turned her gaze on the yellow Pegasus. Ah yes. I understand from Twilight Sparkle's letters that you enjoy tending to the needs of woodland creatures. Oh yes, Your Highness, I love to take care of animals. As do I. As princess, I care deeply about all creatures, great and small. Nothing means more to me than the well-being of all my subjects. The half-dead parrot in the cage next to her chose that moment to cough. Ah, Philomena, my pet. You're awake. Do say hello to our gracious hosts. Oh my. Fluttershy was as usual shocked to see the state of the pet. Twilight quickly stepped in. Princess? I didn't realize she was that close to a burning day. I guess you wouldn't want to leave her alone while she goes through it. The princess nodded. As you say, I wanted to be there for her. Fluttershy looked confused. What's a burning day? If you don't mind me asking. Twilight kicked in lecture mode 1. A phoenix is pretty much immortal, but they do it by regenerating every 100 years or so. When a burning day approaches, they start to molt and look ill, and eventually burst into flame and burn to ash. Seeing Fluttershy's horrified expression, she quickly added, "It's okay, they regenerate from the ashes into a younger version of themselves. It's just a part of their natural life cycle." Twilight, I hadn't realized you'd studied phoenix life cycles. Celestia said with a slightly surprised expression. I found a book on exotic creatures in Golden Oak's library, and considering we're next to the Everfree. A royal guard came up and whispered in the princess's ear. Really? Well, if I must. I'm sorry, every pony. I'm afraid I have to cut the party short. The mayor has requested an audience with me. Royal duty calls. Thank you for a wonderful time. It's been a joy getting to know you all better. Princess, before you go, do you mind if Fluttershy and I look after Philomena while you're at the meeting? I'm sure Fluttershy would love to take care of her. I don't see why not. The princess replied. Farewell, every pony. Fluttershy looked wide-eyed as the princess left. Oh, thank you, Twilight. I'll take really good care of her. I thought you'd enjoy it. I'll get that book. Twilight replied. Though really all we can do is make her comfortable until she burns up. 19:9. Twilight grinned into the camera. Hello, and welcome to Tough Science. I'm your host, Twilight Sparkle, and with me are Rainbow Dash and Trixie Lulamoon. She then looked a bit nervous. Actually, they kinda scare me. Come on, come on. Trixie's horn glowed, and the camera moved around to focus on her. We've received many letters from all over Equestria, asking us important questions that must be answered for science. Dash. The first letter. Right. Rainbow Dash lifted a letter from the pile. This one's from a little colt by the name of Pipsqueak, and he asks, is Luna best princess? Dash blinked. Can we even? Trixie shook her head. A simple question, with two answers. The first answer is of course not, that would be you, your highness. And the second answer is yes you are, please don't hurt us Princess Luna. The answer depends who is asking. Isn't that kind of cynical? Twilight asked from off camera. Trixie shrugged. Next letter. Right. Dash rummaged around. Ooh, I like this one. Do tell. The unicorn moved over to have a look. Dear Mythbusters. Trixie paused. Twilight. Trixie told you that we should be called the Mythbusters. They only call us that because you wrote the adverts and put that on them. Twilight shouted back. Talk to the hoof. Trixie went back to the letter. Apparently this pony is asking us how big a crater it would make if a barrel of rainbow extract were detonated. Actually, that's interesting. Twilight wheeled a blackboard in front of the camera, and started drawing. You see, explosions going off in the air don't tend to create a crater at all. They cause a lot of pressure wash, but no crater unless the fireball of the explosion itself hits the ground. If the explosive goes off on the ground, then it can make a crater, but the best thing to do for a really big one is to camouflage that's when the explosive goes off underground. Thank you. Trixie bucked the board back off screen. But who cares what the numbers say, we're going to blow stuff up ourselves. Dash, where did you put that rainbow extract we liberated? You did what? Twilight asked. Forget you heard that. Trixie then looked at the camera. We can edit the incriminating statement out, right? Asterisk. 3, 2, 1. The ground heaved up, and then it rained dirt onto the three ponies and their slit trench. Excellent. Trixie said, surveying the crater almost as soon as turf had stopped landing. At least twice as big. So, That's the answer? Dash asked. I mean, we've done, like, 10 tests by now. We have, Trixie tapped a hoof on the ground. But we did not test a detonation where the barrel of rainbow extract goes off next to other barrels of rainbow extract. Twilight blinked. Oh, Celestia. I can't tell which of you two corrupted the other, but it's not making for quiet loops. Quiet is boring. Trixie replied indignantly. Besides, Trixie at least exercised discretion on the princess question. Clearly best princess is Trixie. Dash and Twilight both looked peeved, but let it go. Right. Asterisk. I would never even consider this were we not in a time loop, Twilight said absently, lifting the last barrel onto their pile. Right, what did we say minimum safe radius was? Trixie prefers to put it this way. The unicorn made an expansive gesture. Good thing we're in the frozen north. True. The unicorns fired off cloud walking spells and then teleported to a cirrus 40 miles away, and Dash lit the fuse before rocketing off into the air to join them. Asterisk. And there's the answer, Twilight said to camera. With the right environment, a properly buried charge, and lots more rainbow extract, the resultant crater can be as large as half a mile. But don't try this on your home planet unless you're really careful. She turned. Isn't that right, Trixie? Worth it? Trixie shouted from the hospital bed. Twilight sighed. Anyway, if you're doing these kinds of experiments, you really need to make sure you have as many magical precautions as you can as well as non-magical ones, too. Asterisk. So this is what you learned last loop? Celestia asked, as the video ended. Yeah, Twilight shrugged. I've been kind of scraping the barrel for a while now, at least for lessons to learn with Trixie. With her, it tends to be don't use high explosives to make breakfast. The ground shook. Speaking of which, I think she's finished making the crumpets. Want one? Twilight asked. I think I will pass, thank you, Celestia replied solemnly. And I fear for Equestria next time she's in charge. Twilight shook her head. Actually, Trixie is fairly sweet, she's just an adrenaline junkie. And you can't talk, oh Princess Cowabunga. / 19:10. Oh, ah see. Applejack said, noticing the small copse of apple trees. Meh element must be manifestin as something like meh cutie mark. Discord chuckled soundlessly. As he'd thought, the intricate maze he'd woven was convincing the element bearers that he'd set up some kind of test. Thought so. Wait, what? Discord blinked, noticing that Applejack was now wearing her element of honesty. Where did you even get that? He asked, materializing with a whoosh. I just did. Applejack shrugged. Discord grit his teeth, as over on the other side of the maze Rarity's element turned up out of nowhere. Asterisk. Twilight giggled. This maze of yours isn't doing too well, is it, Discord? Shut up, he said petulantly. And you don't have your element, so there. A unicorn without a horn doesn't have any magic, so you can't deserve your element now. Oh, yeah, about that, Twilight hefted a box from behind a hedge. I found them. Discord focused in on the box. It was a large crate, with a horn next to an X6 legend, and a wing next to an X12. But I didn't. Twilight kicked the box, which fell open. There was a moment of confusion, and then all 6 element bearers were alicorns. Hey! Cool! Pinky said, looking herself over. This is super amazing. Hey, Twilight, you got your groove back. My what? I mean, horn. Pinky pointed. An element, too. Discord's jaw hung open. Then he knelt down in front of them. You win. Teach me how to prank, you're clearly better at it than I am. Twilight shook her head. Prank? I don't know what you mean. But if we have one, mind putting everything back the way it was? Fine. Discord snapped his claws. No, not like that, Twilight grinned. Dear me, Discord. Evacuate the castle, and then restore it to how it was in your time. There wasn't a castle there in my time, Discord said, then it dawned on him. Oh, wow. You are good. / 1911. SCP-2314. Classification, Safe Euclid-Keter Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Since SCP-2314 possesses the ability to teleport with no known range limit, containment in a meaningful sense is effectively impossible. The approach taken at Site-12 has been essentially one of psychological containment. SCP-2314 is made to be comfortable in the assigned containment room, and encouraged to stay. To this end, SCP-2314 is provided a large, 10x10x5m, main room, with access to separate lavatory facilities, and many of the same conveniences found in a normal suburban home. In addition, a discretionary fund has been set aside to keep SCP-2314 supplied with new books. SCP-2314's voracity for the written word has proven amply sufficient to keep it content. Food is strictly vegetarian, but aside from this little different from human norms combined with standard equine preferences. Note: apparently daisy sandwiches are considered a delicacy. Possible reward. Description: SCP-2314 is an equine being, approximately 5 feet in length and 4 in height. Its coat is predominantly purple, with a striped mane, provenance of striping unknown and under investigation, and a small single horn in the middle of the forehead. SCP-2314 is female, professes to be fully mature, and is overall cooperative with investigations but projects an air of tolerant amusement. SCP-2314 has full understanding of and ability to speak English, though occasionally words are used which are alterations of English, for example, before hoof as opposed to beforehand. SCP-2314 refers to herself as Twilight Sparkle. In addition, SCP-2314 possesses abilities which are effectively consistent with those of reality warpers. Teleportation and telekinesis in particular have been noted, and it has been determined that SCP-2314's horn glows when such an ability is being used. The reasons for this are not yet known, but SCP-2314 has little objection to subjecting to a variety of tests on these and other magic. Addendum: SCP-2314 self-identifies as a unicorn, and it is recommended to use this term when referring to her species. Also, whoever classified her as Keter was an idiot. Yes, she can teleport. Yes, she's intelligent. Yes, she sometimes seems to be smarter than we are. Whoever gave her that book on quantum physics should take note of the annotations in the margins. But she shows neither attempts nor desire to break out of containment, and frankly I don't see her doing anything particularly nasty if she did leave. For goodness sake, she's addicted to books. We could recontain her by staking out the nearest library. Asterisk. Excerpt from Interview SCP-2314-2. Interviewer: So, you're a unicorn. SCP-2314, yep. Interviewer: Where'd you come from? SCP-2314, Canterlot, originally. Sorry, that's not much help as an answer, but it's the best one I've got. Perhaps we should focus more on my abilities. Interviewer: I'm asking the questions. SCP-2314, and I'm suggesting better ones. Hey, watch this. Slight humming sound. Interviewer: Why is the table glowing purple and floating? SCP-2314, telekinesis. Cool, isn't it? Interviewer: I'll be right back. SCP-2314, okay. Be back soon. From this it should be clear that SCP-2314 is both enthusiastic and does not stick to the script. A collegiate attitude is recommended. Asterisk. Twilight waved to the security cameras. Morning. It was an interesting experience, being the subject of study like this. It would be nicer if they'd just trust her enough to help with examining the other creatures or objects in containment, but a steady supply of books was good enough. That and hearing them trying to work out how her magic operated. It was getting so tempting to just tell them, but it kind of felt like that would spoil it for them. / 1912. The 9 riders of the Nazgul rode out of Mordor. They crossed the Anduin by night, then reached the fords of Isan on Midsummer's Eve. And at that point, all 9 horses blinked. What the hey? Twilight Sparkle asked, shrugging violently and throwing the Witch King of Angmar off her back. Where are we? I dunno. Pinky answered, shaking herself like a dog as Camel the Easterling went flying. The other 4 elements, Luna, Shining and Cadence, kicked their respective burdens off with equal ease, the Nazgul not expecting their brutalized mounts to suddenly lose all fear of them. Wait a second, Shining frowned. This is Arda. I remember reading the books. Oh, right. Twilight nodded, as the 9 began to get up. Yeah, sorry, I was here once before but in a completely different place. She then shot a look at the Witch King. And as for you, the prophecy only says no man can kill you. I'm a female unicorn. Sawed off. The Witch King looked back and forth between the 9 rebellious horses and his 8 fellows. Then all the Nazgul drew Morgul steel. Suit yourself. Elements, girls. Asterisk. The flash of rainbow light could be seen from Minas Tirith. Asterisk. Okay, what now? Cadence asked, as Twilight, restored to her base form by the use of the elements of harmony, converted the remaining 3 black horses into unicorns or alicorns as appropriate. Well, I guess Celestia must be here somewhere. Twilight tapped a hoof. Actually, she's probably Shadowfax. After that, anyone fancy invading Mordor? What, just us? Rarity asked, taken aback. Nat, I bet Spike's around somewhere. Ignoring Rarity's sudden blush, Twilight continued, dragons are powerful here, and I doubt Sauron would be too happy to be hit by the elements regardless of that. Asterisk. Dean Thor tapped the palantir of Minas Tirith. I swear, if this has broken. The Seeing Stone persisted in showing a motley group of brightly colored horses, some with wings, horns, or both cantering east along the Great Road. / 1913, from Melavio. Rarity looked around as she awoke, and noticed a few off things. First, she was in a castle that certainly was not the Royal Pony Sisters' castle, nor was it Canterlot, nor even the capital of the Crystal Empire. Secondly, she was very much a human again. Lastly, and strangest yet, there was a candelabra and a clock that were currently conversing with her. They seemed to be looking at her with varying expressions of worry and curiosity. Searching through her memories, Rarity noted that she was Rarity Bell and had come to this castle to beg for her father's release from the clutches of the evil dragon. At least Spiky Wikey was likely in the loop with her. Ah! Mademoiselle, it is a pleasure to meet you. My name is Lumiere, and this square fellow of mine is Cogsworth, the candle holder noted, gesturing to his friend. A pleasure to meet you, mademoiselle, the clock stated before bowing. Rarity smiled and curtsied. Why, thank you for the introductions, messieurs. My name is Rarity, and I'm looking for the dragon to release my father. Lumiere's smile faltered. Ah well, our master is a bit temperamental, so let us go elsewhere first. And whoosh, a large creature descended from the rafters and landed behind the 2 animated objects. Gulping, Lumiere and Cogsworth both turned around to find their master smiling tenderly. Bonjour, Mademoiselle Rarity. It is good to see you again, stated the large purple dragon. He bent down to take Rarity's hand in his claw and gave it a gentle kiss. Good, Spike is awake this loop. Ancient, monsieur. As I explained to your wondrous servants here, I am looking to secure the release of my father. Spike cocked an eyebrow. I'm sure we can arrange something. Both of the loopers began to walk towards where Spike knew the dungeons would be, but were stopped by the loud rumbles of Spike's stomach and the matching sound from Rarity's. Both blushed before Spike spoke up. I don't suppose you would grab us a quick meal, would you, Lumiere? Looking back at the two, Spike and Rarity found Cogsworth desperately trying to clean his glass face and Lumiere with his mouth open. Lumiere quickly closed it as the question floated down to him and decided to go with the flow. Perhaps they would get this curse broken yet. But of course, Master. Follow me. Both loopers followed the bouncing candle into a grand hall before sitting down at an equally grand table. Coughing to clear his throat, Lumiere began to speak. Monsieur and Mademoiselle. It is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure that we welcome you tonight. Now, we invite you to relax, to pull up a chair, as the dining room proudly presents your dinner. Asterisk. Marvelous, Rarity pronounced. I must admit, I don't tend to eat meat, but this meal was good enough that I might almost consider doing so more often. Spike nodded, seeing what she was actually saying. It was a reminder that she normally didn't have the palate for meat on account of not normally being human. Anyway. My father. Of course. Spike stood, hands on the table. There is only one possible remuneration I can accept for releasing your father. Your service to me, forever. Rarity barely had time to react before Spike shrugged. Worth a try. What about 20 years? 10? 5? Okay, help me sort my wardrobe and a kiss for luck, and that's my final offer. Unable to help it, Rarity burst out laughing. You are the most atrocious negotiator I have ever dealt with. Well, in my defense, Spike paused, then shrugged. Nope, got nothing. Anyway, my wardrobe. Most certainly. Though it won't be any great hardship. As they left the room, Rarity frowned. Wonder who the anchor is? Maybe Twilight's around somewhere. Could be. Spike waved a hand. Maybe yes, maybe no. But then, this world's hardly small, and we could be on the other side of it from the anchor. Twilight was here once. She was a different kind of unicorn to normal, so maybe that's who the anchor normally is. Asterisk. Belle, owner of a small bookshop in Ponyville, paged through a book on her counter. She was told by one of the local loopers, one Fluttershy, that the main anchor of the loop would be coming to meet her once she arrived from Canterlot. Belle was excited to meet another looper that loved books as much as she did. The door jingled, signaling a new entrant into the shop. Welcome to Belle's Books, where the whole world is. Snort. Belle was holding her hoof to her snout in order to contain her laughter. Before her was quite certainly the local anchor Twilight Sparkle. On her back was a quite familiar individual to Belle. If that individual was suddenly 2 feet tall and adorably fluffy. The beast snorted as Belle collapsed laughing. I wanna go home.